Will you please listen up to what I have to say? Cause we're in for some old-fashioned wrestling today. Not the violent, oily opposerish kind, but the kind that involves pins and thumbs you will find. Cause it's thumb wrestling time. Yes, it's thumb wrestling time. So we will discuss pros and cons, faults and pluses of all your favorite movies. And we will ponder the merits of cinema in this WrestleMania. Cause it's thumb wrestling time. Yes, it's thumb wrestling time. Yes, it's thumb wrestling time.
Hello, pod people. Wow. That is from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. You are listening to the 4th edition of the Fennessey Film Festival, which is the very first one in English. And who knows, maybe it will be the last. Because I stole this idea from another podcast. I named it after the person I stole it from. And now he can listen to what we're doing. So he maybe can even send a cease and desist to us. But we'll see how far it goes. Maybe he's flattered. We'll see. We'll see how it all goes. Edition 4 is all about unloved masterpieces. We are going to put into list the criticized, the discarded, and the booed. The stuff that is kind of hated in general, maybe, but maybe not. Some are really critically reappraised over the years. Others haven't really had that bad of a reputation anyway, maybe. And some of these are stuff that we love and maybe no one else does. And I have two guests who are more than fit to do this particular movie draft because both of them chose to represent a movie in the podcast previously, which are those which fall very heavily into the category of no one seems to really love them, but they do have a sort of a following maybe, but they're the ones that do, the underdogs that did need some love. At first, episode 17 was about Jupiter ascending, and there we had a guest, Theodoor Steen. Please make yourself known.
Hello, I'm Theodoor Steen. So I'm a film critic and a film programmer. I am a film critic for Schokkend Nieuws Film Magazine and Cine.nl, where I know roots from. And I am a film programmer for Camera Japan Film Festival. And in the past, I have been a film programmer for Bud Film Festival, which is a festival all about these unloved films, basically. So I know my trash. Let's just call it that.
And my other guest is Ashley Walker from episode 84 to defend Howard the Duck. Welcome, Ashley.
Hello, yes, Ashley Walker. I'm a critic, actually one of Theo's co-critics at Schokkend Nieuws. And, gosh, in the past, many other places, but let's just not go into that right now.
I believe you also bonded over a certain title, which is actually eligible in this podcast, haven't you?
I'm not
Possibly.
sure which title.
Which
title would it be, Ruud?
I'm not sure. Maybe I think I'm actually mistaken. I think actually you bond with someone else over Southland Tales.
Yeah. But
Although he did get me to rethink my Southland Tales position.
Yes, I introduced it again to Ashley, and they were very much on the fence at first, but I convinced them that it's actually good.
Mm-hmm.
It is, yeah. I enjoy that movie now.
All right, that's good. Rethinking movies is what this episode is all about. So let's get into the rules of the game. This is a movie draft concept, which I nicked from the Big Picture, an American podcast, and we will make sort of a pretend film festival. Each of us has one theater, and we have 6 time slots, and within these 6 time slots, we have to program sort of 6 different category movies. The categories I will explain in a bit. But at first, we get to pick movies one by one, and if a movie is chosen by someone else, no one else can touch it, not even another category. And I will draw tiles beforehand from a hat to decide in which order we will get to pick. Now, every time we've had one round of picks, just so a 1, 2, 3, the order will reverse. So then we get 3, 2, 1. If you're the third one, you get to choose twice in a row, and then from then one gets to choose twice in a row as well. And we do this 6 times, 3 times there and back, basically. And then we end up with the last pick, which is for number 1 again.
So if you're second, you're always second.
If you're second, you're always second. You're always in the middle. You always get to choose just one, and you have to wait for your turn again.
Marsha.
Another rule is that we must have seen the films that we choose. If we haven't seen it, we can't choose it. And
fair.
I will reveal that I have kind of fucked myself over with that rule, but we'll discuss it. I'm not going to bark for it. But I thought of one that I really, really want to put in here, but I can't. We'll see. We'll get to that. And in the end, I will put the lists we've made up on my website, and the listeners get to choose. You'll have quite a long time to choose because I'm taking a bit of a holiday break. So plenty of time to maybe reacquaint yourself with these films and then decide, well, maybe this list is best. All right?
Yes.
I'll explain the categories first. We have 6 categories. At first, we have the IMDb Bottom 100. Now, this list is fluid. I haven't checked on this date what the exact list is, but I trust us all to pick movies which clearly have a place on that list. The other one, second one, is 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not even one critic has said, yes, I like this movie. That's basically it. Do we need to explain how Rotten Tomatoes works?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so, yeah.
Now, next one. This was selected by Theodoor as a category, and I thought it was really good. F Cinema Score. What is F Cinema Score?
So the F Cinema Score is basically a system where audiences, before the film gets released, can say how they feel about the film. And I think Ashley can maybe introduce it better because you were once in the audience for such scoring, right?
Right, I was, and I had no idea it was happening either. So I went into it without knowing what it was myself.
So it was a screening before a pre-premiere, basically.
Well, yeah, it was a screening, an early screening for critics, and I mean, talk about a dangerous thing to do with your film, but yeah, we were given the cards at the beginning and a pencil, which kind of blew my mind a little bit because the card was saying do it one way and they were saying do it another way, and it just. Not that it made much difference. I've been trying to remember the 4 reels I know actual title that was for, and I think it was Curly Sue, but I can't find anything that convinces me that it was definitely that. But I'm pretty sure it was Curly Sue.
Wow, Curly Sue. That is a title that I haven't heard in years.
I know, and you were happier too, weren't you?
I'm sort of interested in maybe seeing it at some point just to see, well, this is a movie that I heard so much about when it came out, and then it just did nothing anymore. Right. Has no reputation
whatsoever.
It
just vanished. Yeah. Right.
It didn't get an F Cinema Score. So to explain what an F Cinema Score is, it's the lowest ranking from such a test audience.
Yeah.
If they give it an F score, they hate it. They hate it with a passion.
Yeah. So next category. We are listening to one of the most, let's say, one of the critics with one of the best reputations in the world, but not necessarily someone who was always right. Roger Ebert. 0 stars from Roger Ebert. I believe that Ashley actually has some criticisms of Roger Ebert.
Right. Yeah. When I was younger, I just thought he was the absolute worst. And I felt honor bound to not agree with him. But time has actually mellowed me. I've, believe it or not, read more of his work and actually got to appreciate what he was really doing. So, I mean, not to say that I agree with the 0 list at all, because there are so many things that have no business being on that list. But I don't know, maybe he's having a bad day.
We will get around to my opinions of some of Ebert's choices there, yes, when we get around to the category.
Right.
All right. Next category. Booed at the Cannes Film Festival. The Cannes Film Festival is on right now as we're recording.
It is.
We don't know what is booed right at this moment, but also we haven't seen those films, so we couldn't pick them anyway.
True.
But this is probably the list with the most highbrow titles, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm not going to pick a highbrow one if it's a
Right. Well, it's some of those too have just kind of faded into obscurity as well. Mm-hmm. Even if they've been reassessed and considered quite good now. But there are a couple on the list that I genuinely hadn't even heard of myself.
And there are some on the list where I'm like, why is this? Was this booed at Cannes, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's also a very interesting category because of that. Also because we have this category and we have both the bottom 1,000 and the 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think those present both
ends of the spectrum.
Both ends of the spectrum, where you have certain things that are maybe considered so bad they're good, and on the other side, stuff that is really unequivocally good according to most people, but still has gotten boos when it came out, which is interesting.
Because they were challenging, I think. A lot of those films on F Cinema Score, for instance, are also not necessarily bad, but maybe too challenging for the general audience.
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of a thing where I was with my draft picks, which you will see, thinking about which route to go. Would I go for the challenging films that are genuinely good and I genuinely love? Or would I go with the spirit of the thing where I would pick films I genuinely love, but most people hate?
Yeah.
So we will see what my plan is.
And we'll also see what the audience will most like, whether they like it if you stick to your guns and pick the stuff that's just such a really a pet love for you, or whether they will just think, no, I want to have this ridiculous thing which I think is fun or whatever.
Yeah. Or we could for instance pick Taxi Driver for the category in Cannes.
Yeah.
So maybe someone really loves Taxi Driver,
I really love Taxi Driver, but I think that I'm going to try and restrain myself from choosing movies like that, because it feels a bit like cheating.
Yeah, I had the same opinion, and I think Ashley is on the same page too.
I do think
exactly.
I do think that I'm the highest risk of choosing some things that are maybe cheating a bit more than what you both would choose.
Being booed at Cannes is just such a... it's just a part of the experience.
Exactly.
It would be weird if things didn't get booed. And even, the ones that win the Palme d'Or, that if it didn't get booed, it seems strange.
Yeah.
So it's like, it seems almost random what gets booed and what doesn't.
Exactly.
So many Palme d'Or winners were booed, right? I think, to give an example, that
Pulp Fiction.
Wild at Heart.
Wild at Heart.
Won a Palme d'Or, I think.
The Tree of Life.
It was all of them were booed, yeah.
Yeah. So there's one more category to go through, and that is very simply wildcard, which is sort of anything goes, but we will have to make the case that it is, in some perspectives, kind of hated.
In my case, it will be very clear, I think, I hope.
Well, maybe we'll have to barter somewhat over there. Maybe not. We'll have to see how it goes. There are a couple of categories which didn't make the cut. One of them is being a Golden Raspberry winner, a Razzie winner. I think we all agree that we wouldn't want to give too much credit to that.
We didn't want to legitimize their shit
Clickbait
show
way
of
of
clickbait.
Right. It's just gotten way too mean.
Yeah.
I think most of the choices in the Golden Raspberry Awards have to do with sexism, racism, homophobia. Especially if you look at the films in the 80s that were chosen, it has a lot to do with a certain strain of conservatism. Like, how dare you be out and proud, right? How dare you be enjoying your sexuality? How dare you be black and proud? It is almost a way to cut down minorities for enjoying themselves. And there is a reason, I think, where a lot of Golden Raspberry choices are now considered camp classics or are considered classics in black communities, like Tyler Perry, for instance, has been selected a few times, or have been now reassessed as, we were very misogynistic to Lindsay Lohan, for instance.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, there's plenty of that going around there. And there's another one which I discarded before even suggesting it, and I thought it could have been interesting, but it's also a very difficult one to navigate, which is films disowned by their own maker, like an Alan Smithy film.
Ah, right.
Would have been a good one, though.
Yeah, but
It would have, yeah.
The trouble with that is that sometimes only a certain version of a film is Alan Smithied. Like, for instance, a TV cut for David Lynch's Dune. So would we want to show that TV cut, or would we make it possible to show the cinematic cut or whatever?
I think that it's still a discussion to have at times, because some of our picks, at least my pick, first pick for one category, might be a version that is not entirely the version that was seen at the time.
But, well, basically we're saying, if we say we want to choose a film of which there are multiple versions, just name whichever version you want to show. And in this case, we can sort of argue that it's not about a certain version which has been disowned just there. It's also about just the title which has that stink on it. Yes. If you have the Alan Smithy thing, then you are talking about very specific versions which have been discarded, and that makes it a bit more troublesome, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. So, shall we draw some tiles from this cup and see who gets to go
I'm
first?
excited.
I'm using my Filmstemens cup, which is a prize I won at a film quiz.
Nice.
Let's see where we go. I'm doing it blind. First pick, we have a T for Theodoor.
Yay.
Oh, crud. All right.
Is that you already seeing one of your picks just flying off into the sunset?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm almost like I'd bet cash money, but we'll find out. Things can change.
Things can definitely change. Let's see. Second one up is Ashley.
Oh,
Yes,
hey. Okay.
So that is you, and I am at the turn every time. All right.
So our order is spelling tar, which
Exactly.
would not be a film that it would be eligible for any of these categories.
We would have had a couple of names that could have been spelled out. Rat would have been a good one. I think Art might have been the best.
Yes.
Oh, right.
And I don't know, TRA? Which
TRA is not anything, no.
It is a word in
Tra-la,
Dutch. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're both ready, I'm going to say, let's start picking.
3, 2, 1, fight!
And Theodoor has first pick. So what are you choosing? Which category and which title?
Oh, I can pick the category also.
Well, you can just do one per category.
Oh,
but you have to name
start with IMDb bottom 100, right? Or
No. You can just choose any category you want and go for your first pick.
Oh, that's
and then our picks need to be from that category as well. Yeah.
No. They don't.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Just name the category, name the pick, and it can be any category, but you can only choose one per category. And if someone is
trying to be
chosen
strategic here.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's a strategy game, so...
So, I know for a fact that there's only one film I really like in the 0% Rotten Tomatoes. But I also know that Ashley and I might be gunning for the same title in IMDb bottom 100. So what am I gonna do? Which way will I fuck Ashley over?
Choose wisely.
The competition has begun even before the first pick. This is good.
I will go for the IMDb bottom 100 because it's most true to what I really want to do. And I'm gonna pick Batman and Robin.
Hell yeah.
Yes, because I think from the IMDb bottom 100, that is the one film where I'm like, really? You chose this one to be in the IMDb bottom 100? It is quite well directed from a visual standpoint. There is a lot of interesting things going on for a family-friendly audience. And I mean, I think, for instance, and this is going to be a controversial statement, but this podcast is all about controversial statements. I think a lot of hate for that film has to do with fear by fanboys for anything that spells gay and camp. So that will be my first pick. IMDb bottom 100, Batman and Robin.
Well, almost the first thing that ever gets chosen to be discussed when someone starts talking about Batman and Robin are the nipples.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's like always where people go. It's like you're staring at the bat nipples and the badass, and that's what that movie is all about. When, I mean, really and truly, it's just not that many nipples, really.
No.
There are some nice crotch shots in there.
Crotch shots.
That
Yes.
is a tongue
Try to
twister.
navigate that word, crotch shots.
Crotch shots.
That should be a film title.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Just to tongue twist people. But for me, the one thing that really makes that film and really sells it for me as a camp classic and a gay classic is Uma Thurman. And Uma Thurman is playing Poison Ivy as a sort of drag queen doing a Mae West impersonation with a bit of Marlene Dietrich in there. It is excellent. I think it is. Uma Thurman shows up on the IMDb bottom 100 several times with films.
Sadly,
She isn't necessarily the greatest actress, but as Poison Ivy, I think she nails it.
She knows exactly what she's doing in that film. Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger is also very much joining in the fun, but she just knows in which movie she is.
Yeah.
And what she needs to do. So just kudos for her.
And I don't think many fanboys knew what kind of film it was. And if they knew what kind of film it was, it made them very uncomfortable. And I think that's the reason why it's in the IMDb bottom 100.
I've actually seen the nipple suit live in Forum Groningen when they had the DC exhibition there. The two nipple suits were there, Batman and Robin, and I loved seeing them up close.
Nice.
I've seen the Batman Returns costumes in person, but not the Batman and Robin.
I did also see the Catwoman costume from Batman Returns, and I posed in the same pose there. But let's not get too far.
She's so tiny.
Yeah, she is. It was just there in a tiny glass box. Ashley, your first pick. What are you gonna choose?
All right, let me see here. Oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick with the IMB Bottom 100 just because it makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to choose later. And I'll go with the one that, I don't know, I always seem to get saddled with. Battlefield Earth.
Yes.
And this one, controversial pick. But it has to be said that I think most people probably have not seen the version that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I really like the original theatrical version. And what has been available on home video up to just like a year or so ago was a heavily edited version that, ironically takes out everything I mentioned in my review that I thought really, really worked. Mm-hmm. Because my point was like they took, the biggest, pulpiest science fiction novel ever written and turned it into the biggest, pulpiest movie that has pretty much ever been released. And it's got villains in it that, you can almost see the zippers running up and down their backs. It's totally, completely campy, not very serious at all. They're just having an awful lot of fun with it. And then when they went to release it on home video, they took out all the fun. All the fun was gone. It's like, nope, this is supposed to be a very serious movie. And now there's a special edition for its 20th anniversary, it said, that actually kind of echoed one of the special features on there. The director echoed a lot of the things that I've been saying about it over the years, that it was meant to be, big and pulpy, and it was meant to be a lot of fun. And so, yeah, I'm not saying that it was my review that caused all of that, but, I'm just saying,
you were ahead of the curve.
Yeah. I'm just saying, yeah, I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens. So
what you're basically saying is everything everyone is saying about how Guardians of the Galaxy 3 embraces what it is very much. Battlefield Earth got there first.
Absolutely. It was, there are, it knows it's not a good, a great movie by this. It's just trying to be like, let's, redo a 50s science fiction film in the new century and just have fun with it. And it, yeah, sure, absolutely. Are there things that make absolutely no sense whatsoever? Like jet planes that can still fly? Sure, why not? But you get that kind of thing in those old B sci-fi movies all the time as well. It's they all use the logic of because we told you so. And so you have to be kind of willing to go with that. Yeah. But nonetheless, it's a great time. It really is.
And you haven't even mentioned the author of it yet.
Oh, L. Ron Hubbard? Yeah. Yes, yeah, that was reportedly, this was a big passion project for well-known Scientologist John Travolta. Mm-hmm. And so far back that he was originally wanting to play the hero, Johnny. And one of the reasons why the monster designs are maybe a little odd, a little not what you were expecting, was because Travolta was now too old to play Johnny, so he chose the lead villain, Turl, a Cyclo, and you couldn't cover up your biggest star's face, mm-hmm. So that's what they went for. And again, it works beautifully if you're thinking of this as some like very campy like movie from the 50s or 60s. Does it work as a serious drama that has something to say about the human condition? Absolutely not. I think that maybe that's where the producers wanted it to go, mm-hmm. but it absolutely did not go that way at all.
But what you're saying is John Travolta was the selling point. You're telling me that Barry Pepper wasn't the main selling point of the film as an actor?
I know. Talk about somebody who's had a very odd career, too. It's like it seems like he was hell-bent on being in every terrible reviewed movie, like, in that whole, like the 10-year period there. Because I thought he was in The Lone Ranger too, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I think let's see. The Lone Ranger, The Alamo. Let's see, Phantom of the Opera. I think he shows up in.
Wow.
So we're saying Barry Pepper is the male Uma Thurman.
It could be, or he just maybe really needs a new agent.
I think you can make a case for it.
Some good advice. Yeah.
All right, let's. I'll have my first pick now and second pick right after. But let's see, what place am I going to go? I think I'm going to start with 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Ooh. And that mostly has to do that there is only one title that I really want to choose from that list. I've thought maybe I could watch a couple more of those films, but I have decided against it. I'm going to go for Highlander 2, The Quickening.
There can be only one,
Damn
right?
it.
I want to pick that one too.
There can be only one.
There can be only one.
Right. I think we were all going for that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I was.
Damn.
That was my problem. From that list, I only can defend Highlander 2: The Quickening.
And I have only seen it once at a time when I was most set to like it, when I was in the top of my Highlander fandom. I'd seen the first film, I watched the TV show already, and then Highlander 2, The Quickening came on, and I was, yeah, man, this is weird but fucking awesome, even though I was a small child. And I should really rewatch it. I haven't done it for the ranking. Sorry,
Did you see it in theaters?
Oh, wait.
No. I watched it at home.
Okay, because there is a thing.
Do you know which version? Yeah. Go ahead.
There's a thing there. The theatrical cut is the one that was getting 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, but the one that was on the home video is the Renegade cut. And the Renegade cut is actually the director's cut, and it is quite different. It adds a lot of weirder stuff and a lot of more artful stuff, and it omits all the stuff that was lambasted by the critics. So you might have seen the version that is considered quite okay.
All right.
Right.
Is that a problem?
Were there
for
aliens in the version that you saw? Oh, no, not at all.
It's not a problem for us now.
I was a small child when I saw it, so I'm not sure if there were aliens there. But they were aliens themselves, weren't they? They're from another planet.
You did see... Right, you did see the theatrical version, because that has been eradicated from every other piece of, like, Highlander fandom. That was the quickest reverse, I think, that a fandom has ever done. It's like, okay, we're just going to agree this never happened, and they just don't talk about it at all. But yeah, the writer, I think, has actually said that they thought it was a really good idea at the time, that one of the big questions were, hey, where do these immortal people come from anyway? And so they came up with this, this idea that they were from the planet Zeiss, and
which is a small town in the Netherlands, Zeist.
No. Right, right, or a lens making company, but they but yeah, it's like that. This was faster than Star Wars fans shut down the midichlorians. I mean, it was just lightning speed.
Yes.
Because I've only seen it the one time myself too, because it just sank without a trace.
I did rewatch it for the podcast, but the only version I could find was the Renegade cut.
Yeah,
right.
Just like with Battlefield Earth, they erased every trace of an earlier version.
Right, but in this case, it actually improved it a lot.
Yeah. The Renegade cut is actually quite okay. So, yeah.
Right.
So that's going to be more difficult for us to pick a Rotten Tomatoes 0%.
Yeah. I did consider going for a comedy movie there, because there are quite a lot of comedy movies in that category. The trouble with it is that if a movie doesn't work for everyone, it turns sort of into a comedy, if it's a genre movie or not. If it's a comedy movie that doesn't work, it just annoys people.
Yeah. It will be terrible, yeah.
Jokes don't land and stuff like that. So that was a sort of a troublesome thing to do there. All right, I'm going to choose my second one from the category Boo That Can. And I'm going to go for a movie that I think lots of people agree on is very good, but it's also so transgressive in certain ways that it doesn't get to everyone's liking, and some people just can't bear to watch it for that reason. And I'm going to go for David Cronenberg's Crash.
I knew it. I knew it.
When I started talking.
Yeah, where you said it's highly praised, but not everyone likes it. I was like, that must be Crash.
Yeah. So I think this comes closest to cheating on our mission statement here.
It would have actually been my third pick.
Right, I didn't even bother to rewatch it because I had a feeling that that one would go fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was my third possible option, because I think you can make a case for this podcast. It is that transgressive that a lot of people will opt out.
Mm-hmm.
I did see it in a live screening with music from the Rotterdam Philharmonic Orchestra and an introduction by Howard Shore and David Cronenberg over video call.
Wow.
It was amazing, and Howard Shore was present. So it was an amazing evening, and the tickets were expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people were in the room, and still people walked out.
Wow.
And you were like, you're at a live Rotterdam Philharmonic, you paid more than 70 or 80 euros for a live screening, and you didn't check beforehand what you were gonna watch.
Yeah. You would have thought that it was a sure thing.
Oh, God.
Ooh.
I know.
Boo! Boo! Boo That Can, right? Yeah. But why did you pick this one, Ruud?
Well, because it does get under my skin, and I really like that it does that. It does make me go, I don't know why I'm fascinated by this, but I enjoy it. I can project some of my own darker parts of my soul onto it, revel in that. And then afterwards the credits roll, and I know I've just seen a movie, but it is an interesting way of showing very dark bits of the human soul in a way that I really enjoy, and in a way that Cronenberg masters, and I think this may be his masterpiece.
I would not necessarily disagree there. I think it's one of his best. Yeah.
It really is, yes.
No debate for me here.
So I think I've nicely picked from both ends of the spectrum by now.
Yeah.
And let's continue with the second pick for Ashley. Which category do you want to choose from, and which movie will it be?
I think it's going to be more fun if I just go with the flow. So I will stick with Budokan as well. Mm-hmm. And I will go with Mademoiselle.
Ooh. Mademoiselle.
What's that?
That is... Okay, I should have had this all pulled up, because this is actually one of the ones that I honestly had not heard of.
But you watch it for the podcast?
I did. Yeah, I'm just trying to pull it up so that I can get all the names correct, because that would be very, very bad. But it was directed by Tony Richardson, who is known for, I think he won the Oscar for Tom Jones, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah.
But this is an extremely dark character study, starring Jean Moreau, who is just still one of the best actresses just to ever grace the screen. And she is playing what appears to be a very prim and proper literal schoolmarm type. Okay. And she is nevertheless manipulating the entire town into hating and vilifying the man that she has secret sexual longings for.
Right.
And so there is a lot of, it's playing around with a lot of ideas of not only racism and classism, but, also repressed sexuality. And, also the, question of who can and can't be villainous. Yeah. Because naturally the outsider, the foreigner, as humans we're often coded, it seems, to hate the outsider And we're very willing to believe bad things about them, but oh goodness, the school marm, no. I mean, she's just completely innocent and sweet and could never possibly do any wrong. And it is really it was one of the horniest things I watched for this. And, you know, of course, this was done in like 1966. So, I mean, how horny can you get in 1966? Well, the object of her desires is a lumberjack. And I'm absolutely certain he's okay. But at one point, he finds a snake in the woods. He explains when he bumps into her on the trail. And he shows it to her. He lifts up his shirt, and around his waist is this snake. And here, let me show it to you. And he starts unraveling the snake very slowly from his waist and holds it out to her as it slowly slithers closer to her, and then grabs her hand to touch the snake. And it's like, oh, come on. This is so not subtle. It's, you know, but it it has that weird energy throughout the whole thing, because, you know, even though it's a French production of like a British team, and there's a little more leeway with what you can and can't do sexually at that time. But this one is it's just almost as blatant as, you know, say Pussy Galore in Goldfinger. It's like, you know, how did any of this get past the censors? And apparently it played here, so it must have gotten past them somehow.
Wow.
But so why did you think it got booted?
Just because it was rather challenging, honestly. This is dealing with things, you know, a woman who is obsessed with her own sexuality and going after it in a very blatant way, and also trying to destroy that same sexuality. A portrait of a woman who, you know, has this amount of agency and this sort of power. It was going to be another couple of years at least, well, maybe 4 or 5, before you could really get away with that. And somehow it's another one of those that just sort of sank without a trace. Once the
I need to watch
over.
it though. Yeah,
I was really, really glad that I did that one, and it was completely and totally random. I just happened to know, it's on a streaming service that I use. Why not watch this one night? And my jaw was dropping quite regularly. So it wound up being an awful lot of fun. And also profound. I
rewatched some films, and I watched a couple of films that I have never seen before, but mostly they were very much by design. So and they didn't always pay off as well as this. So it's good to hear that something that you almost put on accidentally, came across accidentally, and has this effect. It's also a very good recommendation, but it warms my heart to hear that it was to such great enjoyment. All right. We are almost at 1/3 of the picks, so I will suggest that, Theodoor, you will first have your second pick, then I'll do a recap of what we've chosen, and then you do your third pick.
Okay.
All right, so what is your second one?
My second one, I will keep it with the horny and problematic. We're going to go for Roger Ebert.
Yeah.
And I was debating two picks, which would have been both horny and problematic. The first one would have been The Devils by Ken Russell, but I thought it was kind of too good for what I'm going for. And I'm instead going to go for a film that is really horny and really off-putting, and people don't know what to do with it. I'm going to go for Freddy Got Fingered. by Tom Green.
Ooh.
Yes. So my second
Bold
pick is
choice.
all the choices. It is, I think, one of the most deliberately off-putting comedies ever made.
It is anti-comedy, but people have dubbed it a Dadaist masterpiece. Would you go that far?
Right.
I would not go that far, but I do think it is one of those films where there is a lot of psychosexual energy from the filmmakers themselves put into the movie, which would make audiences very uncomfortable. Where just this is Tom Green working through some daddy issues. It is,
Which he hadn't done enough in
his
his TV show already.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And I do think it is oftentimes very funny in a way where you're like, oh my God, is he doing that?
Yeah.
Is he really doing that? So it is so over the top and so grotesque that I can't help but admire it and also laugh despite myself, even though I know I shouldn't laugh at almost everything that Tom Green is doing in this movie. But that is a theme that is gonna prop up and to my entire picks is all the picks I'm gonna do or I'm gonna try to do are questionable choices by filmmakers who should instead have chosen therapy. I think Batman and Robin also kind of fits in that team.
I did consider Freddy Got Fingered, but I discarded it in my list because I think that personally I just didn't enjoy it enough. The experience.
I can imagine why.
Maybe it would be different if I would rewatch it now, but I didn't rewatch it for the podcast, so it didn't fit that bill enough. So I just figured if someone else wants it, they should have it. And I'm glad someone chose it.
I wanted to go as far as I could, doubling down on the questionable choices in this podcast. So this is not even my most questionable choice if I have my way.
I like that the two picks that you've made are already a mission statement, and I'll do the recap now. Theodoor has for IMDb bottom 100 Batman and Robin, and for 0 stars from Roger Ebert, Freddy Got Fingered. Ashley, they have for IMDb bottom 100 Battlefield Earth, and for Budat Khan, Mademoiselle, which is a very intriguing pick that neither Theodoor or I have seen yet, so that makes it all the more fascinating. And I have two maybe obvious ones, but still, I'm very happy to have chosen them. 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, Highlander 2, The Quickening, and for Budat Khan, which sounds like Budokan. Sorry. Live at Budat Khan. I have Crash by David Cronenberg, not to be confused with the 2006 monstrosity that won the Oscar for Best Film, which in a way would be eligible for wildcard, I think, maybe.
Probably, yes.
It has been disowned by its maker.
I didn't think of that one, though.
A bit. Not entirely.
Yeah.
Still proud of it, but Paul Haggis did say it is ridiculous that this won over stuff like Brokeback Mountain in the Oscars.
Right.
Listen to them, children of the night, what music they make. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Theodoor, you have your third pick.
I'm gonna go with the one you know would have happened because I have been shouting the praises of this movie for many, many times. I'm gonna go with category Buddha Khan. It's also why I suggested we should do this category because I'm gonna go with Southland Tales. And everyone who knows me knows that Southland Tales is my favorite film of all time.
I'm shocked. This is my shocked face.
We really just left it there for you.
True.
It would have made the podcast more interesting if you would have chosen Southland Tales. I would have killed someone. But yeah, would have made for a very interesting true crime podcast. But yeah, life, murder. Southland Tales is for me, again, a filmmaker working through his psychosexual issues instead of going to therapy with a big budget. It's everything in the kitchen sink. It is, if you have seen Saturday Night Live, you have the character named Stefan. And Stefan is doing a Saturday Night Live thing. It has this and it's this, talking about nightclubs. This nightclub has everything. This nightclub has this and this and this. That's how I feel about Silent Tales. It has cars fucking. It has
it is Crash without the human intervention.
Yeah. It has musical sequence set to the killers, all these things that I've done. It has The Rock talking about a film named Cockchugging 2 Cockchuggers. It has Sean William Scott as twins who end the universe by shaking hands and might be Jesus. It has everything. So yeah, I think it is one of the most batshit insane movies ever made, and I will defend it to the teeth. It is, I think, a very smart film that is about how the end of the world might come from the idea that we as a culture cannibalize ourselves. I think it's a film that is about postmodernism. It is about the end of the world as shown in real time on reality TV. And it is a film that predicted a lot of things. It had the finger on the pulse of the cultural zeitgeist, which is an actual quote from the film. Because it kind of predicted things like Trump. It kind of predicted things like global warming being a hot button issue. There is a sort of Kanye West, Kim Kardashian thing going on there with The Rock and Sarah Michelle Gellar. Like that film was at least 4 or 5 years ahead of its time.
It's a good case for this hill that you will die on.
I will die on this hill, yeah.
Right. Cool. Ashley, your third pick. Where are you going to go? What are you going to choose?
Okay, good question. I'm going to come back to Rotten Tomatoes, I think. None of us has done an F Cinema score yet.
I think F Cinema score might be too low to the category. We're safe. We feel safe with that one, maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
Even though there aren't even that many titles.
I'm going to go ahead. That's true. Yeah, I'm debating that one still. So let's do 0 stars from Roger Ebert. And I am going to go with Choo Choo and the Philly Flash.
What?
Which I know everybody's going, what? And it was an extremely, so obscure that I had heard of it, but I'd never seen it. But it is a movie starring Carol Burnett as Choo Choo and Alan Arkin as the Philly Flash. The Philly Flash is a washed-up baseball player who, thanks to alcoholism, now lives on the streets, while Choo Choo is a dance instructor that has always wanted to be a major entertainer and has never done so. And of course, with these two characters, both very well-known comedians, you would just automatically think that this was supposed to be, a nonstop comedy, and really, it isn't. The first half of the movie is really setting up this romance between the two characters, and where they're really, when they finally open up to each other, they're discovering this sort of commonality, the things in their past that have kind of, brought them both to the same place and brought them both together. And there are brief moments of comedy in that first half, but really it's more of this kind of meet cute thing going on between two characters who probably should have nothing to do with each other and ordinarily wouldn't. But about that time, once they really, really get to know each other, that's where the comedy comes in. And what has happened is that secret government plans of an unspecified nature. I mean, I think they throw some sort of like scientific bafflegab at you to say, oh, this is what it really is. But it's just these plans, and you've got members of the mob, one of whom is Danny Aiello, trying to get these plans so they can, sell them to the Russians. So you've got like the Russian embassy in here, and Choo Choo and Philly not having any idea how any of this spy stuff works. They try to sell it back to the mobsters that had it initially. And they set up this, they're going to meet in an isolated park. They're going to talk with the hot dog vendor there, and they are going to give an incredibly long and convoluted password to let the hot dog vendor know that, you are the person who's going to get the plans. And in return, they'll get something like $100,000. I don't remember the amount. And come to find out, they actually chose the park on a day where there was a huge fair there. Lots of hot dog vendors. People who would come up to the hot dog vendor with the exact same completely insane order. And so he's trying to give it away to people who are literally just wanting their hot dogs. And meanwhile, the mobsters are going to every hot dog vendor there, giving the same order. And without them even really saying anything about it, just each time you see them, they have even more hot dogs. And, by the time the actual hot dog vendor starts doing an Odessa steps out of the park and gets launched into the air, that was where like the slapstick came in. At that point, it starts getting genuinely amusing. But what it really reminded me of was a lot of those live action Disney caper films where, there's never really any, there's really no threat. There's no chance of anything bad happening. But, I just kept, if Norman Torog or if, Robert Stevenson had gotten a hold of this script, it would have been perfect, no notes. But as it is, if you view it as this kind of a earthy kind of, low income strata people meeting and falling in love, plus slapstick, it works so much better.
All right.
It sounds really interesting.
It
but
does.
Also a bit like a device, like a film that is doing too many things at once, maybe?
Right, yeah. It does have that issue, too.
But
then again, so do a lot of those weird little Disney movies, too.
It sounds a bit like, if you're also looking at it in the time frame, and a bit more anachronistically, like sort of a version of Harold and Maude meet Inherent Vice.
Right, yes.
Yeah. I had never heard of it, but
How did you even
I'm
come
genuinely
across it?
shocked that this does not have a cult following. I just remember the name. It was, and I never knew what it was, but I just loved Choo Choo and the Philly Flash. I loved saying that.
Where did you
when
find
I was
it?
like, 8, 9, 10? It's on YouTube.
Okay.
So I watched it on YouTube.
Perfect.
everyone go to YouTube.
And it's like, go to and watch it now. But yeah, I'm genuinely shocked that this doesn't have a cult following. But apparently when it came out, it was released on videotape. And then that was it. It's never been released again. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of hard for an obviously cult movie to develop a cult following if no one can find you after, say, 1985.
Mm-hmm.
It will start here. You heard it here first in the podcast. Choo Choo and the Philly Flash.
Right.
So
The great resurgence of the lost classic.
yeah. Well, you've already picked two films that no one's ever probably heard of, which might hurt your chances in the voting, but maybe not.
Just you wait, Henry
But
Higgins.
This is
Yeah, I figure if I'm going down my way.
yeah.
Yes.
But you've made such a good case for both of them that I think that actually might help you a lot. We'll see. So I'm up. I have 2 things to choose, and I'm still a bit lost at where I'm gonna go, because I could start and breach the F Cinema Score one.
Yeah.
And I do have a...
Right.
But that one is... I'm still not really sure if I'm going to go high or low on that one.
Yeah.
And I feel that because I
That's
can
my
go
problem
both
with it too.
ways,
Same.
I can also first try and fill up some other ones. I'll choose one from 0 stars from Roger Ebert. And Theodoor, you've talked me out of choosing The Devils, which I only saw yesterday, and I loved so much.
Yeah, it's amazing.
In many ways.
That is a good one. Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, because it's a bit against mission statement. But the other one that I want to choose most is probably also in that category, because I'm not going to go Police Academy.
No.
I did really consider it, because I do like that movie a lot, especially also with the same... nostalgia as Highlander 2, probably.
Yeah.
I have considered The Human Centipede 2, but that is one that I wanted to turn off myself while I was watching it. But I was considering the element of, do people want to come watch it out of a perverse interest?
Yeah.
Which is basically why I watched it. But also, I don't want to put people through that. Yeah, I'm riffing because I know that no one else can choose from this category. I also watched 2 films for this category, and I'm going to choose neither of those because, well, there is Caligula.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I thought was also a lot better than I would have thought beforehand, a lot less porny than I would have thought beforehand.
Yeah.
And also the brown...
Well, and it's also playing at Cannes again this year.
Really?
There's a different cut. Yeah, they
Really? Yeah.
They used a lot of CGI to basically reframe and recolor and recut the film without Tintor Brass involved. And Tintor Brass is mad as hell about it.
Okay. That is
really pissed. Yeah.
Really pissed. So it's
very interesting.
I can send a link in the groups app about it, because I just sent it to Ashley. We talked about Caligula the other day, so by coincidence.
Right. Yeah. And I also watched The Brown Bunny, which I also liked a lot more than I would have thought beforehand. But it's also because it is a recut from the one that was first seen by Roger Ebert and that was first booed at Cannes. He saw it at Cannes, so...
Well, yeah, and he reassessed that one after the theatrical cut came out.
Exactly. So I'm not going to go with those, and I'm still going to go a bit more The Devil's way, I think, because I'm going to go Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me.
That's a film I debated to pick myself there, because I think it's a very divisive film.
Exactly.
It's very good. It's amazing.
Yeah. I watched it together with my girlfriend, and I think that she liked it a lot less than I did. But she has watched the first 2 seasons of Twin Peaks, and now she can go on to the 3rd one.
Yeah.
Right.
But I really do think that it is one of David Lynch's most David Lynch movies.
Yes.
And a true nightmare.
It's very challenging.
One at that. So it puts it in the sort of the same category as Crash for me, and that's why I want to choose it.
Agree. I wrote an article about it once, which is how I interpreted the film as being a film about PTSD, and how every visual choice in there and every plot structure point in there underlines the idea of PTSD. And I think it really is one of the best films about PTSD ever made. So there are several instances in there that piss off audiences, but that makes sense if you see it as a film from the perspective of a very traumatized woman.
Yeah.
It is a very good reading.
Let me see what I'm going to choose next, because I do still have to do F Cinema Score, but I feel really confident with that one. But also with the IMDb bottom 100, I think I'm also very much safe, because you've already chosen, both of you. Yeah. So I'm going to do something that you shouldn't do at this part of the game, and I'm going to go wildcard.
Ooh.
Also,
okay.
because it allows me to, well, talk about a movie which I can't choose, that I really, really, really want to choose because I have such a morbid fascination with this film. But the thing is, almost nobody alive has seen this movie because it's in a vault somewhere. We know it exists. A script is floating around and that has been used for certain things. But I've seen neither the script reading nor the movie itself. And I haven't even, I only thought of this too shortly before this podcast to go maybe see some of the images that float around on YouTube, because there is a part of the movie on there somewhere.
I think
It's
I know.
The Day the Clown Cried.
I knew it. Yes.
Right. I knew it. Yep.
I would have so loved to take this out of the vault at Jerry Lewis's estate and put this on, but I've consumed it in not one way, so I can't even barter for it. These are the rules I made. I can't choose it.
Right.
But you can't choose it now.
Have you?
But
Okay.
you would win. You would win. Everybody wants to see the screening room with The Day the Clown Cried.
Everybody
right?
wants to. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Supposedly it'll be available 10 years after Jerry Lewis's death.
could be,
I think it was 10 years.
maybe.
So it's coming up quickly.
Ooh.
So
And Hank Azaria, if you haven't seen it, has got a wonderful remembrance of having seen the film at one of Jerry Lewis's
I thought it was.
which I think he did on the Tonight Show.
I thought it was the guy from Spinal Tap, the other Simpsons voice guy.
Yes.
Maybe both.
Yes. Right.
Could be both, yeah.
I could be getting the name wrong here. But we could be talking about the same person.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. It was not Hank Azaria. It was the other guy. Yeah, the one from Spinal Tap. Harry Shearer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's the fella. So I'm very happy with having thought of this, and that's why I wanted to share it with you, but I obviously can't go there. So I'm gonna go for one that is eligible in none of the categories, I believe, but one that I reappraised myself after having seen it first time, not liking it. I rewatched it 2 years ago and I really loved it. And I have watched a couple of movies which are very sexual and stuff like that, and I haven't chosen any of those. So I'm going to go... I do have one that is very weirdly sexual, Crash, already. Never mind.
Yeah.
I'm going to just say it, Showgirls.
I'm happy about it because I debated it for my wild card. I actually did. I love Showgirls. Mm-hmm. But tell me why you love Showgirls, Ruud. Because Showgirls, Showgirls.
Right.
Showgirls.
Yeah, exactly. It does flirt with the category we didn't choose, the raspberries. But it was at a point when the raspberries got their due attention because Paul Verhoeven went there and accepted his award as the very first person in his history.
And kudos for him, right?
Yeah. A guy who is even more in on the joke than the actual awards. So fuck those awards.
Yeah.
Right.
That is just a hero's journey for him, I would say. And I've heard some people make the case for Showgirls in overtime. Kristen Melody, who was in Palm Springs, she said that Elizabeth Berkley turns in a hero's acting performance equivalent to Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver, and I don't agree 100% because it's a bit more straying off into camp than Robert De Niro is, but I love the sentiment of it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and she was absolutely committed to that
Exactly.
role, too.
She
It
was.
showed a lot of fearlessness, which, in retrospect, maybe she should have been afraid just a little bit. But yeah, it's just such a visually sumptuous movie.
Yeah.
It's one of Verhoeven's most gorgeous movies. And yeah, it just seems very Verhoeven, but at the same time, not really very Verhoeven at the same. Yeah, good pick. Very good pick.
I also quite like that I just said Verhoeven instead of Verhoeven, which is the way we pronounce it, as a sort of a kind of sort of a nod to his American career, which has made him Mr. Verhoeven to the world.
Right.
And he loves to talk about his cast, as he says it in Dutch.
Right.
His cast. Talking about the cast, we should talk about Gina Gershon for a bit here. Because Gina Gershon in that film is just fearless. Yes. She's fearless in that role. Mm-hmm. And Elizabeth Berkley is good in it, but Gina Gershon is the one actress who kind of survived Showgirls.
Yeah, she was untarnished by it.
She knew what she was doing. She was the one who truly got the memo again. Just like Uma Thurman in Batman and Robin, she got the memo. She knew what she was in.
Did any one of you see Showgirls 2, Pennies from Heaven?
No.
You know, I never have. I know that it exists, but no.
I haven't seen it either. I was just curious because I thought one of you might be the one person who had seen it.
You know, you would think that I would have seen it, but yeah, no.
Have you seen You Don't Know Me, the documentary?
I have seen that,
Appraisal.
Yeah.
Oh, You Don't Know Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that one because it makes the case for it being a bad film, it makes the case for it being a good film, and for somewhere in between. And all those cases are strong cases.
Exactly.
In fact.
Right.
And that makes it a very good, very, well, true to reality movie, also celebrating a thing that has been hated on way too much, way more than it deserves.
Right.
And I think Showgirls actually shows... after Basic Instinct, which is still a movie that I don't exactly like, even though I do appreciate some of the stuff that Verhoeven does with it, what he can do with a script that I find pretty terrible. I think Showgirls also has kind of a terrible script, but Verhoeven just lifts it up so much, way more than Basic Instinct, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he just goes that extra mile in style and weirdness, which is awesome. All right. Ashley, you're up for your fourth pick.
Alrighty. Let me see here.
You still have to choose for 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, F Cinema score, or a wild card.
Okay. I'm still debating on the cinema score. So I will go with the 0 on Rotten Tomatoes and... Yeah, I'm really going to do this, I think. I'm going to go with 2002's Pinocchio.
Is it the one with Roberto Benigni?
One of the two with Roberto Benigni.
That's the one. Yeah, exactly. I just say he went right back to that trough, didn't he? But, this was the first one where he was just kind of working out the ideas a little bit. I first saw that one. I was in New York, and that movie was just everywhere. It's like FAO Schwartz had like completely just turned itself into like this little Benini fest there, and there were like signs for it all over the place. And when I first saw it, I genuinely had no idea that everybody hated it.
It was a follow-up to Life is Beautiful, right?
Yes.
It was, yeah. And you do spend, especially this time when I was rewatching it, you do spend an awful lot of time going, wow, this guy won Best Actor the last time he did anything. And wondering what happened. But this one, while not being my favorite necessarily story of Pinocchio by any stretch, it has got this wonderful like childlike quality to the whole thing. You've got a carriage driver who uses like white rats to pull the carriage, and he's got this makeup job that makes him look like a poodle. And none of this is ever explained. It's just naturally that's the way it's going to be. It's a fairy tale. And so it's got this, I I really do not want to call it magical realism, but it's got this like magical fantasy quality about it that, if you've read the book, actually manages to kind of walk the line between the original source material and the Disney movie, which has been the basis of every Pinocchio since. And Disney's really kind of had a death grip on that particular story for, decades. And so here he is doing something very different with it. If you see it with the Italian still on the soundtrack, you can deal with it more as a, serious, attempt to, bring a fairy tale to life. If you see it with the dub, oh my God, if you want to do the so bad it's good thing, that's where you get it. Because it's got Breckin Meyer doing Pinocchio's voice, and I do not know where he was getting this idea, but you just want to strangle Pinocchio so he never says anything ever
Breckin
again.
Meyer of Road Trip fame.
Breckin Meyer, right, exactly. Or 54, if you will. Another movie that would qualify for wild card now that I'm thinking about it. But
I'm very anticipating your second choice of Robert Zemeckis' Pinocchio to make the double bill for wild card.
Right. I did see that one, and it was okay. It was, but once again, talk about Disney having a death grip on it. I think I would have liked that one a lot better if they had used like a different design for Pinocchio, but of course they were never going to be allowed to do that.
No.
And I still haven't seen Guillermo del Toro's.
Oh, that one is amazing.
Either, so.
That one is amazing.
Right, I've heard nothing but good things about it. And, meanwhile, I've heard nothing but bad things about this Pinocchio. But I don't know, it just has a innocence to it that's very appealing.
I actually heard someone very positive about this version of Pinocchio very recently. Well, not directly, but indirectly through a mutual acquaintance. He said that a colleague of mine at the cinema where I work really loves this version of Pinocchio.
Okay.
Yeah, it is absolutely not a waste of time, but unfortunately it was around for so short a period that, virtually no one really got the chance to see it. They just know it as like,
folly, yeah.
It's a Wonderful Life does Pinocchio, and it just isn't. Yeah, it both is that and isn't that at the same time.
The thing is, I think Life is Beautiful might be a better film to be criticized for some things. That should have been a film that was in any of these categories where it should have gotten maybe criticized by Roger Ebert or booed at Cannes, because I think that film has its problems. And somehow we glossed over all those problems and we're like, yeah, of course you can make a fun comedy about the Holocaust and be light about it. And it doesn't sit really well with me, Life is Beautiful, but
it has
Pinocchio,
had this critical overturn in recent years,
one.
very much La Vita è Bella, but well, it is what it is. I don't know how I would react to it if I would watch it now. I'm not entirely on board with the criticism, but also I do understand the criticism very much, and I'm not discarding it at all.
No, it is something where I would have not been surprised if it was more of a film that was divisive, but somehow that one wasn't divisive, and Pinocchio was. Yeah, and that's interesting to me.
And it really does feel like he's running in the exact opposite direction, because he's going with something deliberately, absolutely light and fluffy, and instructive, and something good for the kids, whereas the last movie absolutely was not. So yeah, it's like they make a weird pair when you smush them together like that. Yeah, that was really. It's very clear that he had a lot of money, and he just went for it. And gosh darn it, he did what he wanted to do.
All right, let's move on to the next pick for Theodoor, your third pick. Then afterwards we do a recap again. This is your fourth, and then before the 5th, we do the recap, and you do your 5th. Blah.
That's cool. I will stay with a theme that we already discussed, kinda, because we have been discussing Life is Beautiful and The Day the Clown Cried. I brought it up for a reason, to build a bridge towards my 5th pick. 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. I will go for Andrei Konchalovsky's The Nutcracker in 3D.
Wow.
And that is a very controversial pick. It's not one I will necessarily defend, but it is a film that has to be seen to be believed, because it plays like a live-action Disney remake of the Nutcracker story.
Yeah.
As directed by Terry Gilliam,
Okay.
who is in an obsessive phase about the Holocaust.
Wow.
It is uncanny valley CGI. It is has lyrics set to the Nutcracker Suite in English that are quite literally being written by screenwriters that don't speak English as their native first language. And it's noticeable. You have Nathan Lane playing Albert Einstein, singing those lyrics in the most horrifying German accent ever.
Oh, wow.
And you have John Turturro as the Rat King, playing him as an Andy Warhol Hitler hybrid, bringing with mouse face, mouse makeup. It's good. It's horrifying. Doing a mouse holocaust on actual people in the film.
Wow.
There are references to Auschwitz in there. It is not a great look. It is very problematic, but you are watching it and you are like, this is a children's movie. This is a children's movie with this kind of a budget. This is a children's movie with this kind of a budget that was released.
Is it
This
like...
should have been like...
It sounds like someone who was on that production read Art Spiegelman's Mouse and thought, hey, there are mice in a Nutcracker. Maybe we can blend them together.
Yes. It really feels like someone should have pulled a Jerry Lewis and just put this one into a vault and said, this can't be released 10 years till after I'm dead.
Yeah.
Because it is one of the most misguided things I have ever seen. And I just picked Freddy Got Fingered, so...
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good point.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
sounds
go
like this
for
one's
the-
going to have to become a part of my annual Christmas movie watch.
That's where I first saw it. I'm gonna name drop a friend of mine, Matt Cornell. And Matt Cornell is the programmer for Cinema of the Damned. And he does this thing every year where he does a Christmas marathon. And one year the theme was Christmas movies that should have been forgotten and that nobody should watch. Mm-hmm. This one was in there.
All right.
Together with the Elf Christmas special. And the Elf Christmas special is even more horrifying. So you know what kind of Christmas I had that year.
Right.
It is just the most misguided thing ever. But I will stand behind my choice because I'm going to go with this team of people working their issues with a big budget instead of going to therapy. And I'm going to go with the Everything But the Kitchen Sink team too. This is also an Everything But the Kitchen Sink film.
All right. Sounds...
So this is a film made by someone with a kitchen sink fetish, basically. All films are on my list thus far.
This is turning into such a good podcast already. Oh wow! And to seal the deal on that, I'll just do the recap on where we are now. Within the category of IMDb Bottom 100, Theodoor has selected Batman and Robin. Ashley has selected Battlefield Earth. This is going well already. 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. All three of us have made a pick. Theodoor has The Nutcracker in 3D. Ashley has another children's movie, Pinocchio, from 2002 by Roberto Benigni. And then I have something that I watched as a child, so maybe also sort of a children's movie, Highlander 2, The Quickening. None of us have selected anything for F Cinema Score. to this date, but I have a feeling that unless Theodoor wants to get into his wildcard already, this might change very soon. Then we have 0 stars from Roger Ebert. Also, all 3 of us have selected a film. I got Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. Ashley took Choo Choo and the Philly Flash, a movie no one has heard of, which is awesome. And Theodoor has Freddy Got Fingered. Then in Booed at Cannes, Ashley went for Mademoiselle. Theodoor picked Southland Tales. And I did Crash by David Cronenberg. And then in Wildcard, only I have selected a film, and that is Showgirls.
If she can stand it, I can. Play it.
Now, Theodoor, your 5th and penultimate pick. What will it be? Set us off in this round.
It will be the F Cinema score. And I was kind of debating to go 2 different routes. I could go for the route films I genuinely love, because there are some in there which I think are really well done and are basically lambasted because they are too challenging for the audience. I think of films like In the Cut or Killing Them Softly or Mother, which are all films I think pissed off the audiences by just being too far out of their comfort zone. But instead I will stick with my theme of maybe misguided everything but the kitchen sink films. And I will pick the Lindsay Lohan vehicle, I Know Who Killed Me.
I was hoping that you would say that one, because I sort of had a feeling that that might be one for you.
Yeah, I do generally think it's a good film. But it's also, again, a film that could have been praised by Stefan from SNL. Like, it is a film where he would say, this film has everything. Stigmatic twins, crack babies, an stripper with amputated arms, serial killers, piano wire torture. It is a very fucked up film. It is basically a riff on The Parent Trap. Yeah. In a way, because I saw this at first also in a screening by Matt from Cinema of the Damned, where he did a double bill of The Parent Trap and I Know Who Killed Me.
That sounds awesome.
Which is just an excellent double bill.
Yeah.
Because it's a Lindsay Lohan twin movies, basically.
Twin movies.
So I have defended this film on Twitter. I really think it's a good film. I think it's a mix between what Brian De Palma was trying to do in the 80s with a bit of a neo-giallo vibe. It's a bit Argento-ish at times, but it's also really fucking sleazy. So it's kind of going into Doris Wishman territory. It's going into Andy Milligan territory, like just a really hateful, spiteful, sleazy, fucked up sex movie. In some ways, where you are thinking, yeah, this is again a filmmaker working through therapy on screen. The thing is, I do generally think it is the best film it can be in all those categories. As a sleazy neo-giallo, it's just excellent. And Lindsay Lohan is great in it. And it is actually, in my opinion, a very well-made movie and a very daring movie. So when I defended this film on Twitter, I got a follow from the screenwriter of the film, who follows me on Twitter. So shout out to the screenwriter of the film, whose name I just forgot. I should have looked it up. But shout out, I do really like your film, sir.
Ashley, are you going for F Cinema score? Are you going for wildcard?
I will have to go with F Cinema score because I'll keep my wildcard secret for the moment. And I am looking at my choices, and either way we go, it's going to be Ashley Judd. So you can already tell it's quality. I think of the two, I'm going to go with the one that I think might be slightly less obscure, but I don't know. I'm going to go with 1999's Eye of the Beholder, which was directed by Stephen Elliott of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert fame.
Wow, yeah.
Welcome to Whoop Whoop.
Right.
I'm just curious. The other one is Bug, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Fuck yeah! I also
Which was
very interested in that one.
Part of me really, really, really wants to choose that one because her performance in that is so superb. I mean, nobody in that movie does a bad job. You can only do that if you just completely let yourself go and inhabit your character. And they all did such a wonderful job with it. But I went with the other one because it's a little bit more accessible, I think. It's a far more you're in known territory. It's a kind of a spy thriller. You have Ewan McGregor, who has been given an assignment by his boss to shadow his son so that the father can get him away from whoever he's dating at the moment. You really get the impression of, just a rich kid that, is always making these bad decisions. And when Ewan McGregor starts following the son, he discovers that he is dating a woman who he very soon witnesses her killing the son that he's supposed to be tracking. He keeps following her, and bodies just keep piling up. And without ever having actually spoken to her, he decides he is in love with her. There is, at the very beginning of the movie, he's constantly talking to a little girl who we quickly learn is not there. So he has some issues with interpersonal connections, and, here he is basically a spy / assassin, who starts going after this woman who killed his last assignment, basically. And it's all precisely as convoluted as it sounds. It really is. This is not a movie that holds your hand very much. But at the same time, it's a very beautiful film. It's very well shot, very well put together. It also has Genevieve Bujold in there, and I just love Genevieve Bujold. She should be in all the things. But it's trying to be very Hitchcockian, as I believe the dedication towards the end mentions a whole bunch of thriller makers from the 30s and 40s, and so on. So he's really trying to emulate a lot of the edge of your seat, what's going to happen sort of thrillers, and it just did not get much of an audience at all. Like I say, it's a part of the problem, I think. Right. It's not only is it challenging, but it also has it just resolutely refuses to tell you precisely what's going on. The name of this organization that he's working for, we have no idea. K.D. Lang is playing his main contact in this organization, and why she hasn't been in more things, I have no idea. But there's just so much going on, and again, it's Ashley Judd doing this Ashley Judd thing where, just like there was this streak in the 90s where she was in every thriller, except in this point, instead of playing a victim of someone else, she's playing the sinister character who is a threat to everyone else. And it really does work as a Hitchcockian sort of thriller, De Palma, if you will. But for whatever reason, it just never found a great audience. It really probably should find a better audience, actually.
Yeah, I have seen it, but a long time ago, and I can't remember the details, but I do remember it being very much a film that plays around with our perception of what is real and what is not, and also sort of, dare I say, magical realist kind of things going on in there.
There is a lot in there, yeah. I honestly, I went into this expecting to hate it. And it just absolutely won me over by the end. It's one of those where you kind of wish you could go back and see it again for the first time, but you also want to go back and rewatch it so you can see the clues as they pile up. But yeah, it was one of the bigger surprises. Again, I was surprised a lot by some of the things that I watched for this.
Yeah.
All right.
I am too by your choices, Ashley.
Yeah. Well, then let me just seal off F Cinema Score immediately after you. I've debated whether I would put a prestige title in here as well, but I think I have my prestige lineup ready. I have 3 movies that you can debate are actually quite good. So I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go for one of those of which the enjoyment is how far out there it is. And because I need to get my Nicolas Cage on, it will be The Wicker Man from 2006.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
I have seen the version that does not contain not the bees,
Not the
but
bees.
I would want it in there for full audience participation.
The bees should be in there, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good bee movie.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yes, it is.
Nicolas Cage said about his choice of making this film, well, I read in the script that I would be in a bear costume punching a lady in the face. I knew what I was doing. And he shows it during the film. And it has a couple of those such ridiculous segments that I'm just go, yeah, this is so amazingly weird. I love it. That's why I choose it.
It's, again, like Showgirls, one of those films where the filmmaker after the fact said, no, we intended it as a comedy. Mm-hmm. Everyone thinks it's a comedy. We intended it as one. So
I'm not entirely sure
Showgirls,
it's the case
in
here.
Showgirls, I believe it. But I don't believe it here.
No, it's more of a The Room type situation for that.
Yeah.
Right.
But with Showgirls, I do believe it. With Showgirls, I do sincerely believe that there was some intentional comedy in there. Because Paul Verhoeven, come on, he knows his satire.
They're talking about eating dog food. What?
Yeah.
Where do you think it is serious?
Do you like nice tits? I like having nice tits. Right?
Right. It's a Versace.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I actually have a T-shirt that says that. It has the Versace logo with Nomi Malone instead of the Medusa. And it says Versace beneath it.
Awesome. But yeah, The Wicker Man, it is one of those that you can enjoy with a couple of friends on an evening where you just enjoy it for how weird the choices are. And some of the people in the movie do know it. Some of the people are being overly serious in a way that's also very hilarious. There are lots of good people in that movie, but it's also just so strange a beast that I can't get around it. I wanted to have it either in this one or in the category that I'm yet to choose from, in which I could go for a very safe pick for this lineup, and that would be The Room. But I think that has been so embraced.
Yeah.
That I think let's not. It's gonna. This is it feels too easy for me to choose that one, and it is also one that I have watched and not enjoyed that much on my own. But once I watched it with a group of people, I did enjoy it a lot more. And I do think there are a couple of more titles in this list that work on that level. True. So I think The Room, it doesn't need to be the one there. I think Mac and Me is also a very good contender for that category.
Right.
Birdemic.
Which I only watched very recently. But yeah, the shot that Paul Rudd always uses when he goes on talk shows is just the best.
With the wheelchair.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But if there's one which I can choose as a very terrible movie that does have some weird enjoyment factors, also because it's just so riddled with bad choices, but also has one scene that does stick out, but where I go, well, this is good actually. It is a film by Martin Brest.
Oh,
and it's called Geely.
Oh my God.
Geely.
Yep.
I'm going.
It's turkey time. Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Wow.
Which should be the title for this podcast. It's turkey time. Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Good one.
Someone went with Sheely.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I was frightened to go there. Yeah.
Bennifer, they're very happy together right now. With Ben Affleck always looking very uncomfortable at places where Jennifer Lopez is doing her press time, and it's just an awesome relationship for them to have found each other and embraced each other.
And found each other again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This movie
After-
reputedly has ended their first relationship in certain ways.
Right.
I'm not sure it did, but who knows? But it is a movie with so many bad choices.
Oh.
I love that the guy from The Hangover, the guy who gets lost in The Hangover, is in this movie as someone who is mentally challenged, and he just has every bit of mental challenge lumped into one. He's all over the place. He has some Tourette's in there. He has all kinds of other kinds of things which make up his
Disability, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it's everything and nothing, just like Joaquin Phoenix in The Joker. But he also treats it a bit like Joaquin Phoenix in The Joker, as in he goes for it so much he is giving a performance that reads, I think I'm going to win an Oscar for this one. And it just doesn't deserve that at all.
Right.
So that is something where you can go, well, that is something to just make fun of while you're there. It should be a screening where everyone is very vocal about hating this. But then when Christopher Walken goes on screen, everyone should quiet down and watch the scene, because Christopher Walken in this movie is absolute fucking gold.
Yeah? I never saw it.
If you've never seen it, watch
I
watch
haven't since
that
it
scene.
came out.
That one scene is the only he knows what he's doing. He walks in, he just chews up the scenery, devours it, rechews it like a cow, goes at it, and then he walks out of the frame, and the movie goes back to being terrible again. At the end, because Scent of a Woman, also by Martin Brest, won him the Oscar, Al Pacino turns up, and he tries to do the same and fails at it. He's there, and he just goes full Al Pacino weird inside the scene, and it's just turns terrible in a way. But Christopher Walken, he's my fucking hero for this movie. And that's why I want to see him in June 2.
Is he in June 2?
He's the Emperor in June 2.
Oh, wow.
Which is extra interesting if you consider him in a Spike Jonze directed video clip for Fatboy Slim going, if you walk without rhythm, you won't attract the worm. So
that's great.
That's why I'm doing Geely.
Really
I
very
have to
big
rewatch
would
it
I
now.
say that, Ruth.
It's like, how much do I love Christopher Walken enough to rewatch Sheely? My favorite review of that movie at the time was that when Jennifer Lopez was talking about the method that monks have of removing your eye so quickly it removes the memory of the last thing you just saw. And the critic was going, I wish she would have done that on me.
That was just setting herself up for failure, that scene.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But yeah, Martin Brest had this, like, weird span there. It's like, let's remake Death Takes a Holiday and make it 3 hours long. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
That is also such an interesting film.
Right.
With Brad Pitt speaking in Jamaican titles. Yeah.
But the scene where Brad Pitt is run over by a car is so good.
Hilarious, yes.
Well, right, because he bounces off
cars, right?
3 or 4 other ones. It's it's like he was made out of rubber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's made out of CGI, but it's all the better for it.
Oh, well, yeah, that too.
It's one of those times where bad CGI works even better than not using CGI.
It does, yeah. Because, everybody laughed at that one, yeah.
But that's me being finished in this draft, and there are only 2 picks left, and you both have a wild card to choose.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of starting to think that we're not in Kansas anymore. All holds are barred, and
Yes.
I'm wondering, just after you've both made stellar performances already, so what are we going to go into now? In which void are we going to step? And for that, I'll give you the floor, Ashley.
Oh, boy. Okay, well, I found one that could have been a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes if anybody ever did a review of it. There are 0 reviews for this movie, so it's got to be a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes by default. It is a really weird little thing from 1992 called Freddy as FRO7. It's an animated feature that stars Ben Kingsley. And the whole idea behind it was that the filmmaker, whose name I cannot pronounce and I won't even try, based it on nighttime stories that he would tell his children about the favorite toy, which was a little stuffed frog. And it has the hallmark of having the input of a 6-year-old all over it. It's it's like, okay, so here's Freddy the Frog, and it's like, is he a prince? Yes, he's a prince. Does he do magic? Okay, yeah, he can do magic. Is he a secret agent? Yeah, sure, he's a secret agent. And it's like, this would be good for fans of Axe Cop, but it is another one that just came and went without a trace. Supposedly, there have been sightings of a DVD version of this in the Netherlands, using yeah, I know, right? Using a 1995 re-edit that takes out a lot of the more what the fuck things in the movie. Basically, Freddy the Frog is turned into a frog by his aunt, who is evil, and kills his father back in the Middle Ages. And he is now in London trying to solve the mystery of who is stealing all of the major landmarks in Great Britain. And he has a car, because all secret agents need a really cool car. And this car seems to be very in love with Freddy the Frog. It's one of those kinds of cars. And
why have we so many car sex scenes in our podcast this far?
That's kind of weird, and none of us chose to tame. I mean, wow. Yeah. But it, once it kind of settles down into what it's going to be, after the first 10, 15 minutes when they're doing the medieval thing, and I guess, does he live forever? Yes, son, he lives forever. And so it turns into this very weird James Bond satire, where, he is going to be paired with a mouse who is a martial arts expert. And when he first meets her, she flashes him. So it's like, they're talking about concealed weapons. And she goes, well, I don't need to conceal anything, and opens up her shirt. And I mean, it's for kids, though. Her back was to the camera. And...
So it's not like one of those Japanese TV shows where you just get full boobs.
No. It's, but yeah, it is his best friend, the Loch Ness Monster? Of course it is. And it just keeps piling on. And it's, at some point it just becomes the wave that's rolling over you. None of it makes a lick of sense, but it's of course also a musical, and it's got some bangers in there, I guess, if you like that sort of thing. And the evil aunt is still around in the present as well, and now she's a snake because I guess she can change her image at will. But, she's a snake that's working to control the villain who's stealing all of the landmarks. And, of course, she has a song about how great it is to be evil. And
you're selling me on this hard, Ashley.
Yeah.
It has got a little bit of everything in there. And, once again, why is this not a cult favorite? Well, because you've never been able to see it unless you didn't blink in 1992. And, of course, I didn't. So it has been my burden to bear the knowledge of this movie all these years. And now I pass it along to a new generation who can also carry this in their hearts. But yet, Ben Kingsley doing the worst French accent you have ever heard. And we could talk for a minute about the frog being a Frenchman, but maybe better not to. It's at one point that is actually addressed where, someone says, "He's a frog, sir," and that is no way to talk about our allies across the channel. It's like, no, he's really a frog. So, yeah, this might be one of those that you were positing, Rude, about being a little bit better in like-minded company. Because it's really not going to win an awful lot of appreciation, like just on your own. But it takes the idea of, putting jokes the adults would like and appreciate, and then, the other stuff that the kids appreciate. It takes it just a little too far when, during the evil song, you've got like actual Nazis, like marching around and goose-stepping all over the place. And yeah. It's good for the whole family, is what I'm saying. It's, for kids. But yeah, it's one of those things that needs to be seen to be believed, and they were actually planning a sequel before this came out, which somehow never got made. It was going to be Freddy Goes to Washington. And I have no idea if that would have anything to do with the Frank Capra movie or not, but given everything else going on this, why not? Sure.
Yeah, why
Freddy becomes a senator and fights corruption in Washington.
Why does the title have a 7 in there? Because he's a spy?
Right, well, because he's like a 007.
Or were there 6 other Freddy as Frog films that we don't know about?
Right, that was probably something right there with, oh my God, why didn't I do Leonard Part 6? Because why? Oh man, no! I've got to stick by my guns.
Yeah,
But
that reference to 007, yeah.
Right, exactly. But yeah, that one dogged Leonard Part 6 because no one wanted to see it because they hadn't seen Leonard's 1 through 5. Mm-hmm. So that might have had a little bit of something to do with this one too, but I don't know.
Okay, we have one last pick left. Theodoor.
So, this is gonna be one. I will lead into it because I have been kind of sticking with a theme where all the films are weirdly sexual or weirdly inappropriate. There have all been films where you're doing this and 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 this in the same film. This film has all of it. It also has some current themes running through it. Like Freddy Got Fingered had a cartoonist character as a lead. This film has a cartoonist character as a lead. The Nutcracker in 3D had John Turturro as a villain. This film has John Turturro as a villain. It is Monkey Bone by Henry Selick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not seen it,
a film,
but one that I do
love.
want to see. Okay.
It is just the biggest budget psychosexual nightmare ever made. If you think Beau is Afraid is that sort of thing, Henry Selick was there first, people. Henry Selick was there first. And he has Brendan Fraser in it. It is... that film is, if I would describe the plot in a very simple way, which is not possible, it's about a guy who somehow has made a creation, a famous cartoon about his own boners. And his boners come to life as a character called Monkey Bone. The film even starts with a psychosexual cartoon about his first erection, seeing the swinging arm flaps of his teacher. That's how the film starts. So you know it's kind of in Freddy Got Fingered territory already.
Right. Wow.
So Monkey Bone is this creation. And Monkey Bone is basically a big Freudian metaphor for his erections. Then the guy dies by Monkey Bone because there is a car crash and there's a big inflatable monkey bone in his car, and it's kind of an airbag thing. It pushes him towards the window, and he crashes his car and goes in a coma. He doesn't really die, but he goes in a coma. The rest of the film, part of the film, is in limbo. It is in a sort of hell space between purgatory, between our space and the dream world. And it is occupied by characters that are all from his own nightmares. So it's all stop motion figures. There are so many great set designs in these segments. Henry Selick stop motion figures, weird masks. There are bee people. The thing is, in this purgatory, Monkey Bone exists as a real character. And Monkey Bone steals the body of the lead character and goes into his body as a body swap kind of thing. And the lead character has to navigate from this coma hell space a way to find way back to Earth and stop Monkey Bone taking over his life. And Brendan Fraser playing a horny boner monkey as a person is something that has to be seen to believe. But there is another thing in there. There is a scene where Chris Kattan is in there suddenly. Chris Kattan plays a dead corpse being occupied by Brendan Fraser. So he plays a body swap Brendan Fraser as a corpse. And it is one of the best comedy physical set pieces I've ever seen in a film. You haven't lived till you've seen Chris Kattan throwing his own organs at Brendan Fraser playing Monkey Bone while swinging from a big inflatable monkey. It is just the weirdest fucking gross out humor thing. And I can see why it was a flop, but I think it is the biggest budget folly that was ever made. And I love it dearly. It's just fucking weird.
Sounds like this is the one that Brendan Fraser actually should have won his Oscar for.
Yes. And Chris Kattan should have been in the nomination too. But because Chris Kattan playing a dead corpse is just... It's hilarious.
I find it very interesting that
gross.
after his SNL stint, in which he regularly played a monkey character, that in this one he is not the monkey.
No, but Brendan Fraser is great at it. And John Turturro plays Monkey Bone as a stop-motion character, by the way. So it is... And Whoopi Goldberg is in there, and Bob Odenkirk is in there, and Dave Foley is in there. So all these 90s comics, counterculture comics, and it has that vibe, like Freddy Got Fingered, of anti-humor and anti-comedy. But with just those Henry Selick set pieces and set designs... It looks weirder than the regular Tim Burton movie. It is just even more out there, off-putting, psychosexual. It's just the most beautiful-looking, gross-out comedy ever made.
I am very proud of us three. I think we did our best, and we came out with our worst in many ways.
Right. We did our best worst.
In a very good way. Yeah, exactly. Unloved masterpieces. Maybe each one of us should read their own list of what we've chosen. Theodoor, what were your picks?
My picks were in order. I will get them. Batman and Robin.
For IMDb bottom 100.
Freddy Got Fingered as the Roger Ebert 0 stars. Then I chose Southland Tales as Boudet Khan. Next was it? Yeah, it was The Nutcracker in 3D for 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. It is I Know Who Killed Me for F Cinema score. And it's Monkey Bone, the film that really ties the room together, for my wild card.
Ashley.
All right. I do not remember the order I went in, but I can do them from like top to bottom on my screen here.
Yeah.
For 0 stars from Roger Ebert, it was Choo Choo and the Philly Flash. Boudet Khan's was Mademoiselle. The IMDb bottom 100 was Battlefield Earth. For the F on Cinema score, Eye of the Beholder. 0 on Rotten Tomatoes was Pinocchio from 2002. And my wild card was Freddy as FR07 from 1992.
And then my list, I chose for IMDb bottom 100, Geely, not Giggly or whatever thing. No, Geely. It's explained in the movie. Watch it. As 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, I chose Highlander 2, The Quickening, the theatrical cut. For F Cinema score, I have the B movie version of The Wicker Man from 2006. Then 0 stars from Roger Ebert, I have Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me. I have Crash by David Cronenberg, Live at Budokan. And my wild card is the fabulous Showgirls. I feel like I have the safest list of us three.
Yeah, you do have the safest list, so you're probably gonna win.
I'm not sure.
I also think
in this case that is no sure.
Ashley might win.
Yeah,
Ashley might win because of their really out there picks, which just amazed me and won me over to watch all these films. Right?
It's like everyone run to YouTube.
If people really want to go for psychosexual nightmares where people have a kitchen sink fetish, go with My Room.
Right. Yeah, actually, this really honestly surprised me because I genuinely, the idea that I had going into this turns out to be like completely the opposite of where I actually wound up going. So I surprised myself.
That's even
what
better.
Were you going to do?
Yeah, the honorable mentions.
Right, we do need to do that. But yeah, I was either going to do something like erotic thrillers or movies that have been re-edited to make them more palatable. But I wound up doing what I did here instead for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Obscurities.
Right.
So for me, another honorable mention that really was one I was doubting for the F Cinema score was Fear.com. Mm-hmm. And I'm one of the only defenders of Fear.com because it's also in the IMDb bottom 100 and it was on the Roger Ebert list, I think. Mm-hmm. So I do think that is kind of a modern web-based version of a silent era German expressionist kind of Caligari kind of thing. It's Caligari for the web, for the
okay.
Yeah, Caligari for the cyber age, cyber Caligari. Let's call it that. And I think that's generally a very good film, but I'm the only one. Mm-hmm. So instead, I went for I Know Who Killed Me, which fit more with the theme of whatever the fuck is going on in this film, right? So
I think for F Cinema score, my biggest one that I didn't choose was Solaris by Steven Soderbergh as one that was very underappreciated back then, but also one that I haven't rewatched since. But I remember just really liking it then, and I feel that I would have had to rewatch it before choosing it. And I think,
I was debating the box, but I already went for Southland Tales, so I was like, no. to which
Yeah, I was
case
kind
is
of expecting
redundant.
the box. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
actually on my list too. The box.
I had
the one
that
I
as a
really-
possibility.
Yeah, the one I really wanted to get to was the Brown Bunny. Because I had always heard how terrible and bad this movie is and never ever watch it, but I was kind of impressed. It's a deeply misogynistic movie, but it's also there is an incredibly strange vulnerability in the way Vincent Gallo is playing his character. And, the decision to film it on a 16 millimeter and then blow it up to 35 millimeter to just really up the grain, up the color saturation. It had the look of, an old 70s porn film because and ultimately, he said that, this is a very big anti-porn movie and, it's supposed to, convince you of how, awful and terrible all of that is. But, it's really about how this character just goes through the movie casually abusing women and apparently never even realizing it.
Yeah.
And it's deeply uncomfortable. It was booed for a very, very good reason, but apparently when he re-edited it really turned into something good. Even Roger Ebert, I think, wound up giving it 2-3 stars. Something
3
of that
stars,
nature.
yeah.
I also want to mention, talking about Roger Ebert, a film where I was really baffled by it being on his list, because I think it's a great film. And I think I talked to Ashley about this film a month or 3 ago, because I saw it for the first time then. It's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I'm
Tom
really
Stoppard's
surprised that
only
that
directorial
is-
credit.
Right.
Yeah.
To this time, yeah, to this day.
There are too many interesting things going on in that film, with the linguistic games and with the whole idea that these are characters basically living an entire life in the lifespan of a day. For me to say this is 0 stars. And I don't really get what Roger Ebert was going for there, or what pissed him off, or what made him not see that there are some very interesting things going on there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
it
a
is,
very
yeah.
weird one.
That was a really odd one. But, speaking of Richard Dreyfuss, see what I did there? One thing I was really curious about in looking at these lists as they are, it's where are some movies? It's like, where is Krippendorf's Tribe? Why is that not on here? That movie is just pretty much horrifying on every level, and nope, somebody apparently liked it enough. It's just, it's like, where are like the movies that we more or less all agree are bad?
Racist and sexist and homophobic and we did talk about it because you mentioned Gryffindor's Tribe. We had a short conversation about this yesterday, about this podcast, and we had the conversation about Soul Man. Like,
oh right, yeah, C.
Soul
Thomas
Man
Howell.
should have been on there. It's a fucking racist movie.
It is.
And we basically were talking about if we would discuss this in the podcast, like, where are the truly horrifying movies, right? They're truly morally indefensible, because most of these films on here, except for The Nutcracker in 3D, are morally quite defensible, I think, because depiction doesn't necessarily equal endorsement. And I think Roger Ebert sometimes leans into this thing where he might be thinking, this is morally indefensible, so I'm giving it 0 stars. Like with Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, The Doom Generation, The Devils.
Yeah.
Like, films that make him uncomfortable morally are reason for him to say, this is immoral.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't
Caligula,
agree.
same.
Brown Bunny,
Right.
yeah. But the thing is, where are the truly morally indefensible films on these lists? Because I don't see many of them. And there are many films where I would say those deserve to be
Well,
hated.
Geely is kind of in that category because it does have that dimension of
that's true.
a woman is only a lesbian until she finds the right man.
right.
Of which there are two within the span of a year in which Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez played a part. Because Jersey Girl also...
Right.
No, sorry. No, that's not true. It's not
Chasing
Jersey
Amy, you
Girl.
mean?
It was Kevin Smith's previous...
Chasing Amy.
Chasing
yeah.
Amy, yeah.
Yeah.
But that does have Ben Affleck in it, again.
Ben
does.
Affleck tries to do the James Bond pussy galore thing, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would say that one is pretty morally apprehensible.
True.
Some other ones that I didn't pick, but that I dabbled with. One is Only God Forgives, which I think is actually really good. But also, because I would think that would be more in the category of some might really like it and some might really like having fun with it, would be Lost River.
Yes, I just saw it this morning again.
Yeah.
Great film.
I never got around
Great
to
film.
that one. That was one that I wanted
Yeah.
to see.
It's one that I really thoroughly enjoyed it when I watch it. All the stuff that Ryan Gosling picks from are really obvious, and so obvious
Harmony
that I
Korine.
just don't mind any of it.
Terrence Malick, Dario Argento. It's all in there, yeah.
Yeah, Refn, a lot of Lynch,
Right.
all
Yeah,
that stuff.
it's basically him wearing his influences on his sleeves and having a lot of money to buy big sleeves.
Yeah, exactly, and just going for it. He really goes for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And one that I dabbled with for Wildcard was Vampire's Kiss, but I already saw a
Ooh.
clear way into my Nicolas Cage pick, so...
Yeah.
But
Right,
Vampire's
right.
Kiss is one that I think that the direction doesn't make it a good film. What makes it a good film is Nicolas Cage's choices as an
Yeah.
actor.
Speaking of
Right,
Nicolas Cage, I just thought of a title that I would defend and could have done as a wild card, even though it wasn't necessarily in any of the categories. Ghost Rider 2.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
a big fan of Ghost Rider 2.
Is that a sequel to the Roman Polanski movie or what?
No, it's a sequel to Ghost Rider.
Rider.
Ghost Rider, the super
yeah.
Ghost Rider.
Sorry.
Ghost Rider 2 is
yes.
Neville Dean Taylor. Neville Dean Taylor. And I am a big fan of Neville Dean and Taylor.
Yeah. Rider, not writer.
Rider.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
Rider.
Yeah, another one that I
makes
really
sense.
wanted to get to is In the Cut, which is
Yeah.
one that I think got a lot of abuse when it came out that it did not deserve. But the reason why I didn't pick it was because the director's cut has just been released on Blu-ray here, and I haven't gotten my copy yet. So I really wanted to see that to tell what the differences were.
True. It's a good film. Good pick.
I did revisit Spice World for this podcast. I really considered
Oh,
doing
there
it.
was another one that surprised me, yeah.
That's a really fun one. I was thinking of revisiting Barbed Wire just to see what it is, but I haven't gotten
gosh,
around to
yeah.
it.
I rewatched The Avengers.
Yeah,
The one with Uma Thurman. Again, Uma Thurman being in the IMDb 100 a lot.
yeah. When I saw that
Right.
in the cinema, I actually quite liked it. I was a
It's
child.
fun. What's not to like about Sean Connery in a bear suit, right?
Right, I was just about to say that. It's like the scene where all the Care Bears have like machine guns and are chasing after each. I mean, it's got to be a classic, right?
We had Nicolas Cage in a bear suit. We should have had Sean Connery in a bear suit.
Right.
That would have been good. And yeah, well, there are so many titles that we could have picked that we haven't. So maybe let's just wrap it up. What do you think?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
And so we fought and we battled as we beat each other up. Both of us tried hard, we both failed. Yes, I had you by the thumbs, but neither of us won. Only the love for cinema prevailed.
to vote which of these lists you thought was the best, just go to the website of the podcast. I'll make the thumbwrestling.nl go directly to the page where you can vote. For the rest, well, let me just say this. This was a cinema production, presented and edited by me, which is Ruud de 20e Eeuwse Vos.
Ladies and gentlemen, could we have an enormous round of applause, please, for our host, who has once again succeeded in bringing to us a plethora of top-notch, cinematographically themed entertainment. We have had an absolute ball, have we not?
And with some jingles sprinkled throughout by the genius, that is, Roy Grutters. This podcast was made possible partly by my patrons, Casey the Great, Onno Lubbers, de heilige Sint Niels Timmer, Martijn van Koolwijk, and Mike van Dooyeweert. And you can find us on socials on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And of course, on Letterboxd. And if you want to have a nice complaint, send me one of your juicy hate mails at duimpjeworstelen@gmail.com. We'll be back. That was it. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I know.
Next time on Thumb Wrestling.
In een thriller setting waar veel geld en familiegeheimen en zo een rol spelen, dat je denkt, alles aan deze film gaat goed worden. En dat lijkt het ook heel lang. En dan komt het einde. En dat einde dat maakt me zo boos. dat het ook de hele film verpest. Ik had toevallig van de week ook met een vriend van mij een gesprek erover. En die zei, ja, een fantastische film. Ik vind het echt helemaal te gek. En Sean Penn en Michael Douglas en bla, bla, bla. Behalve dat einde. En toen zei ik ook tegen hem, ik zeg, maar hoe kan je het dan nog steeds een goede film vinden? Want het is gewoon... Ja, voor mij doet dat einde alles teniet.
This podcast employs a strict only like and subscribe if you really want to policy. Okay, bye.